Hello, Stowe community. I'm RealTime82, and today I'm going to show you 3 different methods of how to do a Turbolift trick in the Foundry. Each method has its pros and cons. There's wall swapping, timers, and force response. Today I'm going to show all 3 with all the pros and cons. Now it's wall swapping. Basically what wall swapping is having your player walk up to the Turbolift but not inside it, and then triggering the Turbolift as a trigger, which makes the Turbolift in front of the player disappear and a new one appear in front of them. So let's start building. So I'm going to put this together quickly. I'm not going to try to be perfect about it. So the pros about it is it's easy to do. The cons is it just looks terrible. Alright, so we have 2 turbo lifts. So we have this one here, which is going to be the Turbolift that the player will enter. So I'm going to have the walls attached to it set to go from visible to hidden when component complete, and the component is going to be this Turbolift right here. And at the same time, I'm going to turn these 2 walls and this Turbolift, I'm going to change their triggers from hidden to visible when component complete, the same Turbolift that the other ones were set to. Alright, now the elevations and everything in these have already been set, so we're going to place them right there. Gotta set the spawn point. I have this floating in the air at altitude of 600. I always put the spawn point 1 above the floor. Put the player there. I'm gonna take these walls and flip them around like so. Now, when we test this out, we should only see the 1 Turbolift until we trigger it. Don't forget that since we linked this Turbolift as component complete contact, that we could go to his triggers and change the name of the trigger button and set an animation to it. But for this purpose of the tutorial, I'm not going to do it, because it's just a waste of time. Alright, as you see, we got our first 2 walls and a Turbolift. And this is the con about using this trick, is that the Turbolift flashes like that. Now you can use an invisible object if you want, but yeah. So we come up, interact with the Turbolift. Now the 3... Okay. I know my mistake there. But as you saw, the Turbolift and the 2 doors here, I forgot to set this Turbolift itself to disappear when itself is completed. But here's what I was saying, you can set the triggers, the interact text, and the animation and durations. So, but that's walls. Basically, that's wall swapping. Now we'll go on to timers. Since the Foundry doesn't really have timers, we have to make our own. And the best way I know of is using mobs. So here we got a Klingon mob, instance only, so they're weak and they'll be quick to kill, and a Federation captain and a Federation ensign mobs. Now I have I have two friendly mobs against the one, because you never know. Even though they're ensigns only, they could prop because they have more numbers. I've seen weird shit happen, so. But here's the Turbolift the players can enter. Well, we're gonna build it out here because it wants to be stupid. So, the player is gonna enter in this so-called room that's super large, which is not gonna be super large. Okay, so this is the basic room that the players get start into. Now, I'm gonna have add a few more walls. Now this is the hallway that the player is gonna pop out of. And then we're gonna change this wall into wall door 1, which this door does not open. So, and then we're gonna place it in front of Turbolift like so. Now we're gonna have this wall door open. Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna made a copy of it. Change it into an invisible object. 10 feet. Alright. So, back over here to our door. We're gonna have the door show up when the visible object, which I named Turbolift, is triggered. I'm gonna also have this show up. The walls for the hallway is gonna show up when the Turbolift button is pressed, or the Turbolift trigger. And I'm gonna go ahead and make these disappear. At least these two walls disappear when you hit the Turbolift trigger. Now the cool thing about this is you could put a map on top of a map, but when you put a map on top of a map, that means every object on map A and every object on map B has to be triggered like so, which can be complicated. So, but it's good because the benefit about using this trick is that your boss, your bridge officers, can follow you into the Turbolift, and if they get stuck outside of the Turbolift, they'll still be there when you leave it. Now, the same door that has the trigger for when it becomes visible, I'm just going to make it invisible again when a component is complete. And the component is going to be the enemy Klingon squad. Now I want to make sure that the NPCs will spawn, because you don't want them too close, but yet you don't want them too far, because if they're too far, they still won't spawn. And then I'm going to have all the groups become visible when component complete, which is the same Turbolift button. So all the mobs will beam in. So set the spawn point. Well, I was getting the maps pre-made. I pre-set up for the tutorial. I forgot about the spawn points. Okay. Now you can. Oops, that's an invisible wall, not an invisible object. Object. Okay. You can either set it at the edge so the player has to get near the back, or you could just set it inside. But if you want to make sure they get in, about there is good. No, put it in there, and we'll give it a go. And that's my chair because it's a piece of junk. Shunk. It's a piece of shunk. Alright, let's try again. Interact. Door shows up. And there's some sort of attack going on. And bam, as you said. And like, oh no, we're in a hallway. As you can see, the walls I had disappeared. You go into more detail and you can make it look like a whole different set. Or a different level. Alright. That was using timers. Next one's force respawn. Now, force respawn is less triggers and less, not as object heavy as maybe the others, but the con of it is that when you use it, you force the player to respawn, but it's not a full respawn. You're just pushing the player into a respawn, but since it's not a full respawn, your bridge officers do not follow you. So what I'm going to do is have the player enter Turbolift here and exit here. So let's start making this set. So and then alright. So you got entry and exit. Now for the force respawn to work, the player has to trigger the respawn. So that means they have to see the message. A respawn point has been blah 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 whatever. And you can only do that at a certain distance. I used to know exact distance, but the best safe distance is 21, either left, right, side to side, or up or down in elevation. So we're going here, we're moving across the X coordinates, so add 21 to 305 is 326. If I could learn how to type. Alright. So then we move the Turbolift and set over the respawn point. Now the other bad thing is, since the triggers can only be triggered once, everyone has to be inside the Turbolift. So if you're running with 5-player, a full party, all 5 players have to be in. If one person's outside, then they don't get transported over, and yeah, okay. Say we have the 2 Turbolifts, then we make a 3rd Turbolift and make it from invisible to visible when component is complete, which is the 4th Turbolift I made, which will be changed into an invisible object, and I made sure it was an invisible object. Okay, now it don't have to be precisely, but I like to because it shows up on the maps. Also guarantees that the player doesn't get pushed into open space, but exactly on top of the other one. And don't forget the spawn point, which I did. Alrighty, so as you see, we're at the first point. First Turbolift. Like I said, your boss will not follow you. Even if they do enter the Turbolift like these two did, they're not going to show up on the other side. But here you go. Bam. As you can see on the map, my bob's over here, and now I'm over here to this other location. That is force respawning. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you guys need any further assistance, just go to starbaseutc.com, where you can find both video and text written tutorials for the beginner users and more advanced. Or if you need more immediate assistance, just go to our chat room, where there are authors there to help you whenever you need to.